Uncle Dan.
Hey.
So we're in a pretty weird fucking time here right now, buddy.
Yeah. Hang on a second. I'm adjusting my Utnapishtim. Yeah, it is a very strange moment in our world history where this may. You know what's interesting? I just thought of this. This is the first time there have been world pandemics before. Certainly not with the speed of this one, because we can fly everywhere and everybody does. But also, like, we've never had one before where, like, we've got a bunch of science happening and everybody's communicating with everybody around the world. Like, we're keeping track of the whole damn thing. That's kind of cool and new, but
way to rescue a silver lining, Uncle Dan.
Well, it's a little terrifying. It's a lot to think about. When I think I read yesterday that like 80% of the world is in lockdown or something like that.
Yeah, it's something like that. It's crazy.
Yeah.
What's keeping that other 20%? Get on it.
Doubt.
Yeah, they're going to church is what's fucking keeping them. But anyway, Doug, you've got something cheerful to talk about. I think.
To us.
Yeah, well, dear uncles, all of you out there weathering this pandemic, this is undoubtedly a dark time. And, our species is being laid low by a psychedelic soccer ball so tiny that we only recently developed the technology to be able to see it. And only because of the incredible intellect, effort, and achievement of people far smarter than us do we even know the nature of this deadly particle or have any idea how to stop it. So most of you listening to this show are in the United States, which is just the way it is. So this existential dread and sense of helplessness is only compounded by the incompetent, soulless, and downright vindictive leadership we have to guide us through this crisis. And to all of our listeners who are not in the United States, can I come live with you?
Although it's not like their negligence doesn't affect the rest of the world.
Totally.
Right.
We're big and powerful, and our germs get to everybody.
Yeah, precisely. This is truly a global pandemic, and we have to think that way. And for those of us paying attention, and let's face it, if you're listening to this show, you are probably not getting your news from Fox. This crisis is something that no one living has ever been through. Not to sound grim, but we are all going to know someone who will die from this. We are about to walk through the valley of the shadow of death, and while we should not fear evil, we should respect it, and we should do what we're told by experts as far as social distancing, staying home, and washing hands. Unfortunately, and we'll spend some time on this, not everyone is taking this seriously. Some people simply don't think it's a big deal, and some people think it's a hoax and are going to churches, beaches, gatherings, and in a few incredibly disturbing cases, actively trying to spread the virus to own the libs. Add to that our dangerous deficit in leadership, and it's obvious that this is going to get worse before it gets better. So, what we're seeing is a reordering of our society on basically every level. On the most basic level, we are seeing our capitalist economy confront a challenge that it is not designed to deal with. And like it or not, we're seeing socialist and communist countries and even some of the world's most despicable dictatorships deal with this better than we are. But this is not a politics or an economics podcast. However, there are several distinct and potentially deadly religious angles to this crisis. One that is directly affecting us is the fact that our state here, your audio uncles, is one of the last states to impose a statewide mandatory stay-home order. In fact, as of this record, it still has not been imposed, even though we are watching the virus bloom in our state.
But it has been heavily suggested.
It has been heavily suggested.
It's been given as a sort of best practice.
That's leadership nice. For you.
Yeah, our governor basically just came out and said, "Be reverent." That's basically what happened.
Everybody, fold your arms.
Yeah.
And it's possible that our dolt of a governor is taking his cues from Donald Trump, who is still not taking this crisis seriously, leading those that want proximity to the throne to do the same. Listeners will no doubt find what I'm about to say to be close to heresy, but the Mormon Church has been pretty proactive regarding this crisis. Back on March 11th, they canceled all church services worldwide, and soon after closed all their temples, stopped sending out new missionaries, and even canceled General Conference. Don't worry. They're still doing General Conference, and we will absolutely talk about that next week as it's taking place as we speak.
Oh, do we have to?
It's our duty. But they're doing General Conference in front of an empty room. And man, if you thought that conference couldn't get more boring, you were mistaken. It turns out that the sweeping vistas of white people and creepy Borg uniformity of the Tabernacle Choir really punch the whole affair up a bit. So you take that away and you're left with not much. Uncle Mark and I were talking yesterday about the difference between the Mormon Church's response to the crisis versus the federal government, both of whom share the same ultra-conservative philosophy. One possible reason, and I'd love your guys' opinion on this, is that the Mormon Church is in this for the long haul, and none of the current leadership is facing an electorate. So the incentive to listen to the science works, whereas our current political leadership is only focused on the current news cycle and the most recent poll numbers. So that doesn't work. So the church has actually been really good about this. And I don't quite understand why.
I think Mormonism definitely has an anti-scientific strain, but it is nowhere near as insane as, say, evangelical Americans.
Right. I think so too.
There are, Mormons, there are shit tons of Mormon doctors and scientists, and science is not really as looked down upon generally by Mormonism as it is in other churches, except for archaeology. And that's true. No, it's true. They despise archaeologists, but everything else is kind of good to go.
Yeah. Well, their current prophet is a doctor. Let's not forget that. Also, here's the thing: the Mormon Church as an entity has been wildly pragmatic for several decades now. I mean, if they can amass $200 billion worth of wealth, we know that they can be practical people.
Right.
But that's like the organization. We also can look at the people themselves because they've been a bunch of shitheads.
Yeah,
I mean, just watching the videos and the pictures of the first wave of Mormon missionaries being brought home,
evacuated,
and their fucking families crowded together with signs cheering at each other like they're like nothing's going on, like they don't actually realize why these guys are coming home. It was insane.
Maddening.
So the human beings, so the laity within the church are still idiots, but the church, but the organization itself is pretty pragmatic.
The institution has proven to be very good at rainy days, right? They're good at saving for rainy days.
Emergency preparedness is a big thing for Mormons in anticipation of kind of what we're going through right now. Not at all predicted,
right.
But stocking up in your basement with some oats isn't always a bad idea. But to that point, not all churches are being as proactive as the Mormon church is. Our news feeds are full of defiant pastors and their flocks that are either gathering in groups still or threatening to. What could be driving this? Could it be that organized religion has an inherent fear that if they don't give their followers their weekly fix, people might start to realize that they don't really need it? Could it be that pastors and priests are addicted to power and can't stand not having a room full of people venerate them, even if it puts those same people in danger? Could it be that reduced church attendance is married to a reduction in revenue? Yes, all of the things.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. But here's the thing. We will get through this. Even the bleakest of naysayers, amongst which I include myself, concede that we will eventually get to the other side of this. The only questions are, how long will it take? What will be the cost, both personally and societally? And what will the world we are about to enter look like? This is going to hurt, and we will all lose people we love. The virus will inevitably come back in the fall, and even when we have a vaccine, which we will have one day, this virus will be something we will have to manage for the rest of our lives. But this current crisis will end, and there will be a world on the far side of this, and that's what I want to talk about today, is what will that world look like, and what's our role, specifically as atheists and skeptics, in that new world? Because that world will be very different than the one we left behind several weeks ago. Our economy, our government, our personal habits, our jobs perhaps, our living situations will all be affected by this. And here's the thing. The worst of us are also looking at this moment, and they have dollar signs in their eyes. And by the worst of us, of course, I mean Jared Kushner. So it was a British nobleman in the 18th century named, truly, Baron Rothschild, who famously said, quote, "The time to buy is when there's blood in the streets, even if the blood is your own," end quote. So what he meant, of course, is when things are at their worst, the worst of us should take advantage. We are seeing this already with conservative governors and groups trying to use this crisis to roll back abortion rights, to push their anti-immigration agenda, and even to try and cancel the next election to prevent the impending electoral bloodbath that they have cultivated and so richly deserve. So what got me thinking about this week was watching a bunch of people on the right, especially on the religious right, with shocking honesty in the last few weeks, express what they are not willing to give up, no matter what, even if it makes the world a worse place. So religious people, for example, are refusing to give up their habit, not right, but habit, of going to church on Sundays to breathe each other's air and drink from the same fucking cup, and then march off to the grocery store as vindictive vectors. I'm sure you've seen the videos of churchgoers today, even today, packing into churches, shaking hands and hugging each other. It's a level of selfish arrogance that shocks the senses.
You want to know you want to know a worse one than the drinking from the same cup? Frank and I reported on Thank God I'm Atheist. Apparently, in some of the Eastern Orthodox traditions, they do the Eucharist from a spoon.
Really?
That they each put into their mouths.
Do they pass the same Eucharist from mouth to mouth like that ping pong game when we were teenagers?
Yeah, well, mothers feed it to their children like baby birds. It's a really cute thing that they do.
Then on top of all of this, look at what several prominent Republican leaders like the Lieutenant Governor of Texas, Dan Patrick, and our favorite Glenn Beck have said about old people and the economy. Remember, this is the party of Christian values, the sanctity of life, and the family. But if the Dow drops 4%, then it's into the wood chipper with Pop Pop and Meemaw. It's crazy.
They did it, and that was 2 weeks in. Like nobody even knew the full scope of this thing yet, and they're like, "Well, fuck it. Everybody over 50 has just got to die,
right?
For my 401k."
And they say it like we're making jokes, but they say it overtly. This is not like they're not hinting at it or sort of like dog whistling it. They're just speaking it out loud.
Yeah, it's crazy, and just the very thought of that, the notion that none of us have missed a meal yet. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like this is a crisis, and we're all contributing and suffering in our own way. But stores are still open, right?
Yeah.
Most of us have food in the house.
Yeah.
What is this going to look like if and when things get substantially worse? Right.
The electricity is still on,
which I don't think they will. To be honest,
the internet still works.
I don't think it's going to get any worse. I think people will get sick and hospitals will suffer, but it doesn't seem like those things are going.
No,
unless there are more earthquakes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, thanks, Dan. This isn't that kind of crisis, right? The water's going to stay on. Like Mark said, the electricity is going to stay on.
Well, it is so far.
Yeah, it is so far. But, it does make you think about what these people will be like if another crisis of a different nature comes along. And like I said, all of us are going to be touched by this in ways that we should dread. So this is obviously a time for self-reflection. And while we look at ourselves and each other and our society, one of the things we should be pondering is what we're willing to give up or willing to give or willing to do to make sure that the world we're about to enter is better than the world we're leaving behind. I mean, let's be honest. The fact that you're listening to this show means you're above average intelligence. I don't mean to sound arrogant myself, but let's face it. This is a podcast where three dudes drone on about esoteric religious minutia. This ain't NASCAR. People like you are going to have an outsized role in shaping our new world. Otherwise, it will be shaped by the likes of Jared Kushner, Mike Pence, and Dan Patrick. So, what are you willing to give up? What are you willing to give? What are you willing to do to make the coming world better than the last? First and foremost, we've got to get through this. So social distancing, hand washing, and working from home if possible is a must. The nature of herd immunity means that for now, staying in sweatpants all day is your patriotic duty. Anyone intentionally ignoring these guidelines should be called out for the colossal asshole they are. And just a special shout out to any of our listeners working in the trenches of our defunct healthcare system. You are the best of us. Thank you for what you're doing.
Yes.
So
keep your sanity.
Yeah. Stay. God, you're the best. Thank you so much. Yep. But it is also said that the best revenge is living well. So I think we're all looking at various forms of self-improvement, and that's good. If nothing else, improving your health is a great way to combat the virus and will do wonders for your psychology. Is it time to lose weight or quit drinking or quit smoking? Is this crisis the impetus to go and take up those hobbies you've always wanted to and you can still do, independently and away from people, like hiking or biking or taking long walks or going for long drives and exploring your state? Is it time to take up reading again? Or have you been itching to start writing or finish that book or screenplay you've been kicking around? What about learning chess or Go or backgammon or crosswords? What about learning that language you always wanted to, or giving drawing or painting a go? Exercising your mind is at least as important as exercising your body, and you can do all of that while quarantined. And, of course, we should all be looking for ways to be kinder and gentler in our new world. How well do you know your neighbors? How dependable a friend are you? How robust is your recycling effort, right? Like, these are things we can do. But to be specific to us and our listeners as atheists and skeptics, is this crisis enough of a paradigm shift for us to change how we exist in this new world? Maybe it's time to come out to your family as atheist or queer or trans. These are obviously very, very personal decisions, and I am only advocating reflection. But imagine how many more people would be alive by the end of this crisis if there had been less religion in this country. Maybe this fact needs to be rubbed in the faces of those who fucked this up so badly. If we ever have Thanksgiving again, is it time to tell your crazy religious or conspiratorial relative that enough is enough, and thanks to not be spreading deadly rumors in my presence anymore? Is it time to have that discussion with your friend or relative that you have been putting off because you know it's going to suck about your beliefs or lack thereof? Is it time to make the argument about why religious belief is not just dumb, but dangerous? If you are still going to church because of a relationship or obligation, is this crisis the thing to aid you in getting out? Has this shocked the system enough for you to finally be honest about who you are and why with the people you know and love? Is it time to share this and other atheist podcasts with friends and family to try and nudge them down the road to enlightenment?
Well, it's always time for that. It's always time.
It's always time for that.
Yeah. We don't need a plague. Guys, you don't need a plague to spread this show. But we got a plague on.
Yeah.
And these are all pretty grand acts and far, far easier said than done. But there are a million little acts that we can all do to build up a secular new world. Is it time to donate some money or some time to your favorite secular cause, or take on a new one,
or podcast,
podcast? Is it? Yeah. Is it time to start calling
the worst? We are the shittiest.
We are the worst.
Yeah.
Is it time to start calling your senator or your representative or your state rep or your city council person and let them know what your opinion is? Is it time to write?
Shoot the shit.
Yeah, or just, hey, what's up, buddy? Hey,
what's up?
How are you?
Hey, Mike Lee. How are you doing? Let's talk about you.
It might be time to write to your local newspaper and try and get a secular opinion piece published. And I want to be clear. I know that many of you are doing much of this and more, and you have been for some time, and you deserve all the gratitude in the universe. But we are going, if we are going to be a counterweight against the bevy of religious snidely whiplashes out there looking to build up the kingdom of God, we are all going to have to pitch in at whatever level we can. One thing is absolute, and I this better be true for everyone listening to this podcast and everyone you know. We are all going to put together a well-stocked and thoughtful emergency kit for our houses when this is over, right?
And as we're discovering, it needs to include a lot of booze. So
exactly.
I really thought you were going to say toilet paper just then, but okay.
Hey, yeah, can I just toilet paper? But it's not to interrupt you, Doug. But it's funny because I'm a crazy person. It's during this crazy quarantining and everything that I've decided to flirt more than usual with sobriety, and that's a crazy thing to do. But saves me trips to the liquor store.
I know. I looked at my very recently well-stocked liquor shelf last night and was like, fuck. So, I think that's it. That's kind of me up on my soapbox. It's up to us. No one is coming to save us. We're it. So listeners, that are hearing my voice, be safe. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. We're going to get through this. And then let's all do our part to build the world that we deserve, not the one we were stuck with 6 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm. No,
I like that idea. I will say this. I want to take a little bit of the pressure off because for a lot of our listeners, I want to just say, look, so if the only achievement that you achieve during this is surviving an international plague, sometimes that's enough.
You did good.
Just surviving is great. But if you have the wherewithal to do more, I do love the idea that now's an interesting time to sort of change how things work. And by the way, as you say, like, these people are still going to church. They're culling their own herd. So we may have a little bit more of an advantage by the time we leave this than we did going in.
Well, I think I heard Tom and Cecil say that, that the virus does not select Christians and conservatives, but Christians and conservatives are definitely selecting the virus.
Yeah, exactly.
And unfortunately, it's going to slop over on all of us. But that's the truth. And there's just this one of the real fundamental flaws in society that this is showing, and they are legion, is how this bullshit, bad information system that is especially acute on the conservative side is going to cost tens of thousands of lives. Yeah. And so that's one point. And I would also just say, I agree with everything Doug said, but I would just say about, as a person who's come out twice as gay and an atheist, I would say, police across the world are reporting right now that the biggest spike in crime is domestic violence.
Yeah, that's true.
So people are cooped up together, and that's, if you have a person with violent predispositions in your life, this is not going to be the best time right now necessarily to make some of those big life changes like coming out. But I think, Doug, you were referring to after the fact, right?
Yeah, most of this is we can all be writing letters and, taking up these hobbies in our quarantine, but there will be a post-quarantine world that's going to look very different. And that's my point is, we've existed kind of in the shadows and on the margins for a very long time. And this new world is hopefully going to have a newfound respect for science and truth.
Yeah.
And that's the sunlight that we live under. That's what got us to where we are now is, understanding what is in reality and not some stupid fucking book or some stupid fucking pastor's sayings. And why the fuck do you have to go to church anyway? What's there?
Yeah.
Like, what are you going to find out this week that you would have missed if you didn't go?
Right. Yeah, I think I hope that what comes out of this, and I'm such a stupid fucking naive optimist, but what I hope comes out of this myself is that we're now seeing that it is not football players and hedge fund managers that are essential to society. Right. It's the people who have been fucked by the economic system that those people have perpetuated that are essential to society. And they're, many of them are listening to the show, and they're grocery stockers, they're delivery drivers, they're in-home healthcare people, they're teachers that are trying to maintain a school year in the midst of insanity.
Yeah.
So
and truly, how grateful are we all that our garbage gets picked up, right?
Oh, my God.
That somebody's still doing that fucking service for us.
Yeah. Yeah. Those are the essential people in society. And maybe we will learn to value them differently after this is over, And
you're way more optimistic than I am.
But I mean, to reiterate my point, if we are going to venerate those people correctly, if we are going to reorient and rework our priorities and what we see as essential, we're going to have to do that. That's you know what I mean? Like, it's up to us to realize that world, because the people currently running the world don't give a flying fuck. They just want your money.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, they keep saying it. They keep saying out loud, what we care about is our stock portfolios, not you and your people. That's it. I don't know how many times and in how many ways they have to say it before America believes them. But at very least, we can amplify the message that no, what matters is people. What matters is people having safe and reasonable lives, and being able to live with some degree of comfort and safety is far more important than how many billions a billionaire is able to say they have.
Right.
Yeah, and part of how you value those people is how you pay them. And, one hopes that will change after this, but one has been wrong before.
Yeah, but,
indeed.
Again, we got to do more than hope. It's on us.
All right.
Yeah. Well, it's an excellent message.
Yay.
Let's plan for the aftermath, and once we all crawl out of the bunkers, we'll kick some ass.
That's right.
Charge!